There's Paul Hudrick. He's got a great piece up right now. We're going to get into that. We got a game against the Suns tonight. Very important. A lot to dive on into here, of course, as the Sixers, about 10 games left to go in the season. And Paul joins us, of course, via the Boardwalk Honda hotline as we go inside the Sixers. Down the stretch they come, Paul, and we know they got a very tough stretch. They got tonight and then tomorrow against Milwaukee, then Milwaukee again. So I want to get your take, though. We didn't get a chance to really get recap the Warrior game. You lose a game without Simmons and Harris against a team that's about 500 in your building. How do you unpack that one?
It's a couple different things, Mike. Certainly, there were signs that were disappointing. Like Steph Curry going for 49 points on the run he's on right now. I mean, you kind of just throw your hands up when you consider they didn't give. It's not like they gave up 120 points. The bigger issue to me was the half-court offense and the way that Kevon Looney and Draymond Green, credit to them, the job they did on Joel Embiid. And the fact that no other Sixer made them pay. That was the biggest thing that was disappointing to me. But to that end, Mike, you mentioned, I mean, you're down two starters. Ben Simmons out. I know some people be like, oh, well, he wouldn't have helped with the half-court offense. Well, that's kind of ridiculous. I don't agree with that. Plus, your team defense, he would have been such a huge help against Curry and against others. And it's Tobias Harris. I mean, he's been your second guy. When Joel Embiid has been double-teamed or when you've needed a bucket in stretches during the game, Tobias Harris has been that guy. So to miss those two guys was huge. I thought Seth Curry was great in the first half. I don't know if it was, he's missed a couple games. I don't know if maybe he was a little tired in the second half or what happened there. But I don't even think he scored a point in the second half. And then Shake Milton was disappointing off the bench. Tyrese Maxey gave them a really nice spark. George Hill did some nice things, but you could tell he's still rusty. He's still figuring some things out. I thought Korkmaz struggled for the first time in a little bit here. So to me, what I take out of it is, yes, the half-court offense was very disappointing, but it is very difficult when you're missing two stars, including a guy that is such a big part of what you do offensively.
Yeah, it's like I don't know it's like, is it a bad loss? Like, at this point of the season, you got to win games. You got to beat these teams because this race is one game apart. That game would have made it a two-game differential. Instead, you lose the half game, and now you fall back. That, at the end, we might look back and say, you had a home game against the Warriors. I know you're shorthanded, but so I don't know. It's like I'm trying to. That's why I'm trying to find out how people look at that. I mean, Curry just had one of those nights. I thought Joel got caught up in the moment a little late in the game.
Maybe a little bit.
Trying to go Curry hits a 30-footer, then Embiid tries to do something, and he ends up traveling. Then he throws the bad pass. Curry hits another three, and it was almost like, hey, he's doing that. I got to do this. You know what I mean? That's what I'm talking about.
I think to an extent that, Mike, but I also think it's just the way, again, to go back to the way that they kind of defended him. He was clearly frustrated all night. He did, for the most part, he did a pretty good job of handling those double teams. I think he had a season high in assists in that game. So he was, kind of controlling the half-court offense pretty darn well for a while there. And then I think he got frustrated by the fact that he couldn't score and then that no one else was really helping him. And I think, yeah, to your point, I think he kind of took it upon himself and maybe tried to do a little too much. And I think that's why. And listen, the guy's been so good all year. He's not gonna be perfect every night. He's gonna make mistakes. And I think he just had, at the end of the game, I think he just had a bad night because he forced some stuff. And I think maybe a part of him felt like he had to. Maybe he didn't. Maybe he did. Maybe the only way they were going to win that game is if he forced stuff and it worked. So it's a bad night. These things happen. I would say, too, when you look around, it's funny, Mike, is Brooklyn, do they want the 1 seed right now? Because they sure aren't playing guys like they want the 1 seed. So you see their list of guys who are out. Milwaukee now, I mean, Giannis is banged up, so I don't know what his status is going to be going forward. So, you want to win games. You don't want to lose any games. But the reality is this thing will still be very much in their hands. The schedule is going to soften up after these, difficult games tonight against Phoenix, who I think is the most underrated team in the NBA, then 2 in Milwaukee. And then after that, it gets pretty soft after that. I mean, yeah, Atlanta twice, but it's a lot of breaks in between. So I'm not as worried about it. But, yeah, of course, you'd prefer to stack wins now.
Yeah, and I saw something about the Nets I'm sure that a lot of people have seen. By the way, since James Harden has entered the Nets lineup, When they're all together, they're 5-2. When there's two of them there, they're 20-6. When there's only one, they're 7-4. And when there's none of them, they have not won a game. But no team has won an NBA championship where each of your top three scorers missed 10 games or more. And they are now in that department now where these guys just aren't playing together. And we're running out of games now, Paul. So this will be interesting to find out because Harden just had a setback, right? I mean, he might not play for another couple of weeks. So you got that. And then Durant got hurt again, too. So you're right. But so this game tonight is important for Philly, but this is, as you just mentioned, this is a very good Suns team. If you're just a casual fan, you listen to Inside the Sixers, you love the Sixers, you watch Sixers games, and you say, the Suns, they've been bad for 10 years. Not this Suns team.
No, this is a very, very, very dangerous basketball team. You look, Devin Booker to me is one of the most underrated players in the entire league. He is just a scorer and can do it in bunches. He's become a better playmaker as his career is going on. Still very young. And talk about three levels. I mean, he could do it. He's a great three-point shooter, can kill you in the mid-range, has a great finishing packages, whether it's a floater, whether it's at the rim. He's athletic. And then you add a guy like Chris Paul to that mix. Chris Paul's one of the greatest point guards to ever play this game, and he is still really, really, really good. And then the pieces around him, they built that team so well around him. Mike Bridges, who is sort of kind of a former Sixer, would look awfully good as a Sixer right now. But he has been playing. He has been playing excellent for them this season. He's having a great year. If Julius Randle wasn't having the year he's having with the Knicks, Mike Bridges would certainly be in that most improved conversation with the way he's played. Veterans like a guy like Jay Crowder has added something for them. So I just think you have those two stars in Booker and Paul, and then the supporting cast is just really filled in the gaps. And they're a very good defensive team. Monty Williams has done an excellent job as an NBA, coming back into the NBA head coaching fraternity there. And he's been excellent for them. And so, so like I said, Mike, to me, this is the most underrated team in the NBA. I believe they're the best road team in the NBA. So it's even at full strength, this would be a challenge. If you're missing guys, it's going to be extremely difficult.
Yeah, and by the way, the injury report for today, Seth Curry, questionable. Tobias Harris, questionable. Joel Embiid is questionable. I did not see Ben Simmons. Was he also on that questionable list? Yeah, Ben Simmons is also questionable. So possibly no Simmons, no Embiid, and no Harris. You're looking back to one of those COVID games that you played earlier in the year if that happens.
Right. That's kind of the sense I got when I saw that injury list. It's like this felt like the Nuggets game when you see, 4 or 5 starters potentially missing this game. And I really don't. I have no feel for what's going to happen, Mike. I really don't know. And you have a back-to-back. That's the other thing. Not only do you have to go to Milwaukee and play 2 games,
which means
you have to play Milwaukee tomorrow night.
Right, which means Embiid is probably out tonight or tomorrow. Pick one.
Possibly. And then not only that, on top of that, you're probably not going to play. I wouldn't think you're going to play Tobias Harris both games either. With his knee situation, it's something that's lingering. I doubt you'd want to let him come back and then play a back-to-back immediately. Seth Curry, as I already mentioned, has missed time. He's got a hip flexor that's bothering him in the same leg, the same side, the left side, that his ankle. So that's probably like a compensation kind of injury right there. So you don't want to rush him back. You probably don't want him playing a back-to-backs. And then Simmons, I don't really know the full extent of the illness or what that is. Doc Rivers wasn't positive, but said it's probably like he thought it was like a stomach ailment. So see where he is with hydration levels and fitness level and all that, if he's going to be able to play. So it's a really tricky situation, and it's going to be. I don't envy Doc Rivers and the Sixers medical staff for having to kind of navigate all this. This is really tough, especially in this season that we've mentioned, a ton of times, and how weird this schedule is and how condensed it is. So some difficult choices they're going to have to make tonight and beyond through the end of the season.
By the way, Philly is a half game up on Brooklyn, who won last night. They are 4 up on the Bucks. They play the Bucks on Thursday and Saturday. Now, they do have George Hill back. You wrote a great piece about his presence and how it changes the Sixers lineups. So give us some insight on what you saw from Hill in the first game. I know Doc Rivers talked kind of glowingly, even though the stats wouldn't say he did much. Rivers obviously loves having him there. So how his presence, what it means for these lineups.
Right. So the one thing that you saw pretty heavily in that game against the Warriors, which we haven't seen really at all, is a center and then basically 4 guards. I mean, I guess you could call Matisse Thybulle a wing, but he guards most of the time. And so to see him kind of almost playing like a stretch 4 kind of a role, setting screens and rolling and stretching out to the 3-point line. I asked Doc Rivers after the game, is it, because clearly part of it was necessity. You have Tobias Harris, you have Ben Simmons out. So you're really hurting kind of at that 4. And Doc Rivers said, no, this is something I want to take a look at. I want to see how we look with 4 guards with George Hill now in the lineup. So when everything goes back to normal, you have Shake Milton, you have Furkan Korkmaz, you have Matisse Thybulle, and you have George Hill. Those are probably your top 4 reserves. And then Dwight Howard's your center. So when you factor that in, it's not worth it to play Mike Scott, who is struggling. Get your 4 best guys out there and kind of figure it out. And I think that's where Doc Rivers' head is at, is those are my 4 best reserves, so I'm going to play them. And Tyrese Maxey has played very, very well over the last 2 games, while Shake Milton has honestly struggled, especially in that Warriors game. So, and I think that's where Hill comes in, because his versatility and what he can do. He can play on the ball, can play off the ball. I thought he was really passive offensively. Understandably so.
Right.
His debut with the team, he kind of wants to get a feel for things, let the other guys kind of run the show and kind of fit in. And I thought he did that. Defensively, listen, he had to guard Steph Curry after not playing basketball since January 24th.
Yeah.
Guarding Steph Curry right now is not that's not an enviable position for anybody, let alone a guy who hasn't played since January. But listen, I thought he played him tough. He face guarded him. He ran around with him. Steph Curry runs around more than any player in the NBA. So for him to do that with his fitness level maybe not being where he wants it to be, that's not easy. And the fact that Hill asked for that, Doc Rivers said that George Hill said, I want to play against Steph. So I thought overall, yeah, I mean, the glowing memory is of Steph hitting a ridiculous step back 3 against the guy.
That late one where he just gave him, he's at the foul line, like, all right, you want to shoot it? Go ahead.
Because what are you going to do? When a guy's on a run like Steph's on, I don't know what you do other than just literally double team and trap him on every single possession. So there's that. And then I just thought, too, like with Hill, the dynamic he adds as another ball handler, as a guy who can get to the rim. You saw him get to the rim twice, and then you saw Tyrese Maxey get to the rim a bunch. And it's almost like, is that legal? Is a team allowed to have multiple guys that can get to the rim? And the Sixers, I think just adding that dimension, I think, is only going to help this team.
Yeah, one thing I wanted to ask you about in that game, they were using a lot of pick and roll on Embiid, and the defenders going under a lot, which was giving a lot of open looks. If teams are going to start utilizing that more, the Sixers are going to have to do a better job. Now, no Simmons changes that a little bit. I mean, he normally does a lot better job there, but if that's a way that teams are going to start going after you, and if you're going to go underneath the screen and you're going to have a guy like Curry shooting, I'm imagining the Nets in this situation, obviously.
For sure. Doc Rivers even said, he kind of hinted that he could have done something differently. Didn't give, He literally said, I don't want to tell you my strategy, but I think we could have done something different. And I wonder if part of that is a little gamesmanship, because Steph Curry, as you pointed out, is going to be a guy who's going to give similar problems to what those Nets 3 players are going to do. So maybe Doc doesn't want to show all his cards and show maybe some of the looks that he would give to a team like that in a playoff series, which I think is smart. Joel Embiid this year has done a lot more of showing on those pick and rolls as opposed to just dropping right to the rim. He's done that a lot more this year that he ever has in his entire career, and he's done a pretty good job. But with a guy like Steph, Doc even said, nah, that's not really what I want him to do. As you pointed out too, Ben Simmons would have been in the lineup, would have been guarding him an awful lot. Does such a better job handling screens, and because of his length and his size and his speed, he can recover so well, and maybe would have given Curry more problems. Although I don't know if anybody could give Curry problems right now, but it would have at least challenged him a little bit more on the perimeter, maybe affecting some of his shots. And I think, with Tobias Harris too, I mean, just that help defense, because that's the thing with Curry. You're not guarding with one guy. That is a team cover. So to miss 2 guys like
Trey
that
Lance had no
Simmons
offers
and Harris, I mean, I think that was huge.
Yeah, I tell you what, the one thing is it shows you, I thought the whole last 3 minutes, because people forget, the Sixers, I mean, they had to lose in the game by 8-9. They were winning that game with 3 minutes left. I mean, Embiid hits the free throw. It's 92-91. And I feel like from that point on, not having Ben Simmons on the offensive side and the defensive side, that's where it was very noticeable that you had some problems. It's like, all right, you're having a big night. Let me, but who knows? I mean, Curry could have scored on him, too, the way he was going. He would have just stepped back 2 feet further. He had a 28, a 29, and a 30-foot three-pointer in the last 2 minutes of that game. It was truly – I was saying, we had this conversation on Monday after you were off. Who's more entertaining to watch, Embiid or Curry? Now, I love watching Embiid. I think he's just so unique. Nobody else does what he does. Curry is the best at what he does, but he was way more entertaining than Embiid the other night. When he's on, he's the guy. When Embiid is going, it's funny. They're so different, but, man, when Curry is going, the handle that he has, and you just said it, I brought this up yesterday, what he does without the ball in his hand is the most underrated part of any player of anything in the league, of him running around, driving guys nuts, wearing them out, catching the ball, and he'll pump fake, he's up, he quirks, he's around. I mean, he's just so crafty. He's like Kevin McHale shooting threes, up and under, and, I mean, it's nuts watching him.
Right.
And you know, it's tough. When he's going, it's tough to find an answer.
And so you and I talked on Monday about Joel Embiid, and one of the things I said about Joe that's so impressive is that, you know, he had mentioned that he watched tons of Dirk Nowitzki in the offseason to see how he operated around that nail area and kind of running the offense through that. When he came into the league, he studied Hakeem Olajuwon, and he studied some Kobe Bryant. So, and it's the same with Steph. Like, it's a combination of all these players that came before him. Like, he shoots and he plays off the ball like Reggie Miller. But then he handles the ball like I don't know, like Chris Paul, like the way he just is so smooth. And it's the way the game has evolved. It's because of guys like Curry and guys like Embiid who incorporate all the things that guys before them did and combine it and make it this special player that's almost indescribably good. And it's been comical how good. Like I was in the press box laughing at Steph Curry, because it's like, what do you do? Like, all you can do is like watch it and enjoy it because he's just so great. And it's both Doc Rivers and Steve Kerr before the game. They said it's art. What he does is art on a basketball court, and that's what it's like. It's like watching an artist and just do this, like just show their craft at a level that's like beyond what anyone is doing, beyond what anyone has ever done when we're talking about Steph Curry. And by the time his career's over, maybe Joel Embiid as well fits into that category.
He's the best shooter that I think we've ever seen, any of us, and enjoy it while it's here. 33 years old he is, doing what he's doing right now, so keep that in mind. All right, down the stretch they come. Paul will be back on Friday to recap the Sixers and the Bucks, and then get ready for the Bucks on Saturday. And then, of course, we've got next week Oklahoma City and a pair of Atlanta games. So we got a lot of Sixers, but we're running out of games. We'll see it all right here on Inside the Sixers. Paul Hudrick, at Paul Hudrick. Go check out his article on George Hill. It's up right now at 973ESPN.com. All right, Paul, thanks, man.
Sounds good, Mike. Thanks, man.
And he, like August, appeared via the Boardwalk Honda hotline, does a great job covering the Sixers